Hi, everyone. Congratulations, you're spending more money on taxes than on food, clothing, and shelter combined.
Make this promise to Canadians. I will always be straight about the challenges that we face and the choices that we must make. And to be clear, we won't transform our economy easily or in a few months. It will take some sacrifices, and it will take some time.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
More than just elbows.
As a European, I am a European, actually.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, Irish citizen. Yeah, so there you
welcome.
go.
Welcome.
Speaking as a European, I'd like to say the following.
These are Muslim values. These are Canadian values.
And Canada's broken because we're stupid. Okay? Canada's broken because we're stupid.
Good afternoon. I'm joined today by my colleague Brad Redekop, the Conservatives' Associate Shadow Minister for Citizenship, Immigration and Refugees. Canada's immigration system being a hot mess is a well-established fact, supported most notably by dramatically falling public support for more immigration. In response to this crisis, the Liberals have embedded several immigration measures in their border security bill, Bill C-12. By all accounts, during recent witness testimony that we heard at the Standing Committee on Immigration, the measures they included are not sufficient to truly modernize and fix an utterly failed system. And so Conservatives will propose multiple constructive amendments to the bill in an attempt to improve the legislation and fix Canada's broken immigration system. Here's what we're going to propose and why. This week, British news was dominated by sweeping immigration reforms proposed by the governing Labour Party in response to the ongoing illegal migration and bogus asylum claim crisis, a crisis that has triggered a massive support for the right-wing Reform Party. Those who think that the situation is better on our side of the pond are profoundly wrong. Between January 22 and October of this year, the United Kingdom had around 375,000 people enter the country and make asylum claims, representing about 0.5% of their overall population. During the same time, Canada had nearly 496,000 claims, or roughly 1.2% of our population today. Liberals have also paired the surge in illegal immigration and bogus asylum claims with allowing record levels of temporary foreign workers and study permits. This situation has strained Canada's public health care system, and other taxpayer-funded social programs past their breaking point, making housing unaffordable, causing a youth jobs crisis, and leading to a heavier reliance on social programs. It has also begun to tear at Canada's social fabric, just as it has in the UK, because rapid, unsustainable immigration levels make pluralism harder to maintain. The volume the Liberals have allowed to enter Canada over the last several years has also made security screening difficult. An explosive news story this week claimed that there are, at a minimum, hundreds of people in Canada with link to a state-sponsored terrorist organization. Last month, the government admitted it didn't know how many criminals it gave citizenship to. And multiple news stories have exposed how Canada's justice system routinely gives leniency to non-citizens convicted of serious crimes in order to allow them to avoid deportation. And actually, just yesterday at our immigration committee, we had an official state that the Liberals have implemented a system, some sort of an app, whereby asylum claimants can self-declare whether or not they are adequately security screened. So we'll need some more information on that. All of these factors have led to a precipitous drop in support for immigration among the Canadian public. Without substantive system change and a return to first principles, as is already taking place in the UK, it is only a matter of time before Canadians lose their patience and the debate on immigration in Canada turns ugly. And so Conservatives will propose a series of substantive reforms to prevent this from happening, presented as amendments to Bill C-12 during its clause-by-clause review at the Security Committee next week. Given the bill's scope, our amendments will have two objectives. The first, truly fix Canada's broken asylum system by reducing incentives for people to make fraudulent claims, making it harder to make fraudulent claims to begin with, processing claims more efficiently, and making it easier to remove people with no legal reason for being in Canada. The second objective will focus on strengthening Canada's border security by modernizing the standards by which non-citizens convicted of serious crimes like sexual assault while in our country can be removed, and making the removal process for non-citizen convicted criminals and those with no legal reason to be in Canada more efficient and more transparent. So the first objective. Of the many areas that require urgent reform in Canada's immigration system, one takes the cake, our profoundly broken asylum system. Once an efficient and compassionate means for Canada to welcome and protect the world's most vulnerable and truly persecuted persons, in the last decade, the system has morphed into a backdoor, lucrative means for illegal economic migrants who wouldn't likely otherwise have a path to permanent residency to skip the line and stay in Canada. The evidence of this is overwhelming. Canada's asylum backlog has exploded from fewer than 10,000 claims in 2015 to nearly 300,000 today under the Liberals. Many stem from individuals who illegally crossed the border after U.S. rejections, spurred by Justin Trudeau's 2017 #Welcome to Canada tweet. Others surged from Mexico after the Liberals lifted visa requirements without safeguards against fraudulent claims. The system is also starting to be flooded with claims from temporary residents under Liberal policies that lack functional removal mechanisms. The immigration measures in Liberals' Bill C-12 fail to substantively address these problems. Committee witnesses have testified that the system changes Bill C-12 proposes are half measures, certain to face immediate court challenges that will further clog an already overburdened justice system instead of curbing abuse. In effect, the Liberals are offloading their illegal migration mess onto strained courts and past the next election cycle. Committee testimony exposed further flaws untouched by Bill C-12. It fails to disincentivize people from coming to Canada to make bogus claims and partake in the generous social benefits rightly afforded to legitimate claimants. For example, rejected asylum claimants whose cases are under appeal, so these are people who have already had their claims rejected and their cases are being appealed, continue to receive full health care, housing, and other social benefits. With appeal delays now exceeding 44 months and federal health care costs for asylum seekers reaching $3.3 billion since 2015, this constitutes a clear abuse of taxpayer money that must be ended. The pedantic and loophole-ridden process for appealing a bogus asylum claim and removing bogus claimants from Canada also begets system abuse and needs reform, which C-12 as written does not provide. The asylum system also urgently requires greater accountability and transparency, an issue that hinders even MPs from seeking basic information. In its main oversight mechanism, the annual report to Parliament, is outdated and must be modernized to disclose critical data, including outstanding warrants and compliance with departure orders. The Immigration and Refugee Board, the central decision-making body in the asylum system, requires urgent reform too. Deputy chair positions must reflect current provincial demographics and immigration patterns, while board membership should include law enforcement expertise. The RRB currently faces no real consequences for flawed decisions or persistent backlogs that harm Canadians, and its appointments remain heavily politicized. To fix these issues, Conservatives will attempt to amend Bill C-12 to undertake the following system changes: removing the ability of migrants with failed asylum claimants to claim any federal social benefits beyond emergency health care, disallowing asylum claims to be made by nationals of or by those arriving in Canada having transited through a G7 or an EU country, modernizing and strengthening screening requirements, requiring educational institutions to accept foreign students to share the cost of any bogus asylum claims made by foreign students they welcome to Canada, requiring that claims made by migrants who return to their home country while their claim is pending be abandoned, rejecting claims after a claimant is found to have lied to an officer, placing the onus on a claimant to prove that they made their claim in the timely manner, not on the government, requiring asylum claimants arriving in Canada to immediately provide, on the record, their full grounds for seeking protection, preventing later use of unscrupulous lawyers to game the system, as we've seen many reports of, modernizing the appeals and judicial review processes associated with the asylum system, creating a new, transparent, and clear reporting requirement for the government to disclose the amount of federal benefits received by asylum claimants, modernizing the content of the annual report to Parliament, and modernizing the IRB appointment process to better consider the province's merit-based candidates and reduce the politicization of the review system. On the second objective, strengthening Canada's border security, Bill C-12 purports to strengthen Canada's border security, but it leaves gaping holes open for non-citizens convicted of an indictable offence in Canada, such as sexual assault, to avoid deportation penalties. It does little to prevent human trafficking or modernize the removal process for those who have been determined to have no legal reason to be in Canada. Loopholes in the outdated Immigration and Refugee Protection Act allow non-citizens convicted of serious crimes like sexual assault to avoid deportation if they are sentenced to 6 months less a day or less. And so, over the last year, Canada has seen case after case after case where the justice system provides leniency to non-citizens convicted of serious crime like sexual assault in order to prevent their deportation. And it's worth noting that these are not leniencies given to Canadian citizens. For a non-citizen, our laws and practices state that staying in Canada is a privilege, not a right. Most non-citizens understand this concept overwhelmingly and play by the rules. That said, being convicted of a serious crime should be a minimum standard that Canadian law enforces when it comes to deciding whether or not a non-citizen should be allowed to stay in the country. Non-citizens who are convicted of an indictable offence like sexual assault in Canada should face deportation, period. But even facing deportation may not be enough. To be effective, those deportations need to be carried out in an expeditious manner. Recent reports show that the Liberals have lost track of nearly 600 convicted criminals scheduled for deportation. To fix these issues, Conservatives will attempt to constructively amend Bill C-12 and make the following changes to strengthen our borders. Clarify the definition of serious criminality under the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act to be conviction by an indictable offence or a hybrid offence where the Crown proceeded with an indictable charge. Prevent non-citizens ordered removed from blocking deportation by barring repeat pre-removal risk assessments unless substantive new evidence of changed circumstances is presented. Modernizing the time period and process related to the enforcement of removal orders. All of our amendments are designed to be common sense, rooted in needs exposed by recent news reports, and designed to be supportable by all political parties, including the Liberals. But most importantly, they are designed to restore order, fairness, and compassion, and public confidence in Canada's immigration system. Thank you.
Here we go.
One Touch initiative here. I mean, obviously, the head of the CBSA's union was raising it. I think he used the word app. They've since corrected it's not an app. But clearly there are questions about the system. You mentioned wanting more answers, but I guess what is your concern about it, and what would you like to see happen?
So my colleague Brad Redekop was actually the one who questioned the officials yesterday. I'll welcome him if he wants to say anything. I would just say this, super concerning. Especially when paired with the global news story about Hamas operatives being allowed into Canada, specifically one entered as a refugee. We do have immigration officials at committee this afternoon, and we intend to ask them more about this. Do you want to say anything else, Brad? Okay.
Just obviously on what you're mentioning today, I know at least the public safety minister has said, both C-12 and C-2 are imperfect bills. I think that is his quote. So do you think that you will get buy-in? Have you talked to your Liberals of the committee? Do you think it's going to be a fight, or do you think that there is some common ground here?
Look, I think everybody in Canada, every political stripe, should be deeply concerned with public polling data that shows that Canadians are losing faith in the immigration system. I'm encouraged that in Canada, that debate hasn't devolved towards pointing fingers at immigrants themselves, and nor should it. The finger should be squarely pointed at the Liberal government. And if the Liberals are serious about restoring that public confidence, we've done our job as an opposition. I think that the measures that we've put here, kudos to my team and to Brad. We've put a lot of work into suggesting other policy alternatives that show us to be a government in waiting, frankly. But I certainly hope that the Liberals steal these ideas because, we're right on the precipice in Canada right now, especially if you watch what's happening in the UK, knowing that our numbers are actually, both by percentage and absolute numbers, worse here. Things need to change. So we're going to propose these common sense amendments. They're rooted in testimony, in news stories, and we hope that the Liberals will pass them.
Quebec governments believe that the federal government doesn't do enough on that front. They are considering right now cutting social assistance to asylum seekers. Do you think other provinces should also take the matter in their own hands?
Well, within our jurisdiction, we will be proposing amendments that would restrict federal benefits to emergency health care, to those who have had failed asylum claims. The numbers that we've seen, for example, on the interim federal health program are shocking, a 1,200% increase over the last decade. This year is on track to be the highest numbers ever. The housing shortage, hotels for refugees, like it is a mess, and it's not compassionate. So these are common sense reforms that hopefully will bring public confidence back into the immigration system and restore compassion to legitimate refugees who come here, who wait years to have their claims heard, right? So we're doing our job.
Just a clarification question on the amendment to remove most social services for people with failed refugee claims. Is that referring to people who have just failed at the IRB and are waiting a pre-removal risk assessment, or people who've also failed at the pre-removal risk assessment level? Just where would that kick in?
Well, as I said, we also think that the appeals process needs to be modernized itself, and we'll be presenting amendments on that front. It's very clear that the appeals process, as I mentioned, I think the wait time is 44 months right now. So that is a problem in and of itself that we will be proposing amendments to address. But frankly, I think Canadians want some change in this regard. Canada's system for allowing and accepting asylum claims is pretty generous. So somebody who's failed a review, I think it's fair that the only federal benefits that they receive is emergency health care, and I think a lot of Canadians would agree.
Just about a month ago, when the minister was at committee, you raised a lot of concern about the broadness of being able to change, modify, etc., immigration documents in matters of the public interest. Why aren't you putting forward any kind of amendment to shore up that definition?
Well, it is shocking that the Liberal government has proposed this type of a power. I think back to 2012 when then Immigration Minister Jason Kenney, he put forward some legislation, I believe it was in a budget implementation bill, to address backlogs that the Liberals had amassed during their time in government. And what the Liberals are proposing today, they do go a lot farther. The minister and the officials have to answer claims. They made some claims that said that these powers would only be used in situations of fraud. The officials are going to be appearing before committee this afternoon, and I'll be weighing their testimony closely. Thank you.
As a European, I am a European,
European.
actually.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
Oh.
Irish citizen. Yeah, so there you
welcome.
go.
Welcome.
Speaking as a European.
WTF.
Here, here.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
More than just elbows.
And as the most European of the non-European countries,
being aware of what potential conflicts of
What
interest you sought to
possible
avoid.
conflict would you have, Stephanie? Stephanie, I'm complying with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance. Come on, these are Muslim values. These are Canadian values.
Hi, everyone. Congratulations, you're spending more money on taxes than on food, clothing, and shelter combined.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
All right, gang, thank you all very much for watching. Aaron, Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe. Smash that subscribe. We're trying to grow this thing. Canadian Federal Politics. Get yours right here. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.